Hey guys, Jordan Arell here, and today I'm answering the first user question or first comment question thing I've kind of got. Denis Moraes from Brazil asks, make an video why only just a few of americam circumcised bother themselves about this mutilation. So, see if I can answer that. My experience why I wasn't bothered for it by a long time is because I didn't even really realize what it was. I think a lot of men don't. A lot of men don't know what the scar on their penis is. They don't know that it's a scar. They think it's just part of it. They don't even know that they're circumcised. They don't even know what circumcision is. And the vast majority of them think that if they do know what circumcision is, they think it's a lot less tissue that's cut off. It's about the amount that's in a 3x5 index card like this, but a lot of men think that it's like this much or like this much, and you'll find that the men who actually understand more about it, research has shown, people who know a lot about what circumcision actually is, what it does, the effects of it, what the foreskin actually is, are very upset about it, and tend to be very dissatisfied with their sex lives and have a lot of effects that you'd expect, realizing that they're mutilated. Most men don't call it mutilation here. Actually, almost none do. They call it just circumcision, and they haven't ever heard that it's thought of as mutilation by some men. They haven't ever heard it compared to female genital mutilation and don't see how those two could be similar at all. It hasn't ever entered their mind to think that it could be somehow a similar thing, that the foreskin might actually be a sensitive or important part of the penis that actually adds function to it. They think that it's less sensitive, not far more sensitive, as we know from the studies we've done. And they haven't heard, since most men are circumcised, they haven't heard other men say that that the foreskin actually feels really good. They just think all of their friends are circumcised. A lot of their friends probably are circumcised, and the few men who aren't circumcised, in the adult, especially older adult population, are made fun of and ridiculed and teased and taught that their bodies are wrong, and so they actually feel bad about their sexuality often and have negative experiences around their sexuality because because when you see yourself in that negative light, and when you are constantly being reflected back that there's something wrong with you, you internalize that and you start to have bad feelings, and even though that part of the body is extremely pleasurable, there's a way that we cut ourselves off from it, that we think about it in such a negative way that we can't really feel those good feelings that come from it, or recognize them, that they're there, because no one in this culture has been taught that or understands that, including men who have it. Most men who are intact, when asked, is that valuable to you, they say, yeah, I guess so, it doesn't really matter. They don't think about it, or they may even think, actually I wish I was like everybody else and didn't have it, because they just want to feel like they're normal. And so, yeah, circumcised men think that they're normal. They don't know that anything's missing. They've never known anything else. They have no idea that their sexual experience is anything other than what they think of as normal. They think it's cleaner. They think it's more hygienic. They think it prevents STDs. There's a lot of myths that are completely untrue, that have been totally internalized by us as a genital cutting culture. And we're starting to challenge those really successfully with some of the campaigns that are coming out now, and things are starting to shift. I think it's really, really going to start to happen towards the end of this year and into next year is when things are going to actually start to hit the mainstream more. But right now, men just don't know. They just have no idea for the most part. The vast majority of men, the vast majority of women, and in fact, the myth is common among, all of the culture, including women too, and so they also think that circumcised is better because that's what they've been taught. And so men are also really embarrassed if they aren't circumcised, and are proud if they are circumcised because they think that that's what women want, because that's what women have been taught to want in our culture. And the U.S. is very, very bizarre in this way, as opposed to the rest of the world, who thinks circumcised is really, really strange and even gross or grotesque or fucked up. I mean, they think of it as the same as female genital mutilation in a lot of places, and rightfully so. There's no difference. There's absolutely no difference. So yeah, that's a few of the reasons why in our culture we think, in the United States, men aren't very upset that they are mutilated because they don't know that they're mutilated. They don't think of it as mutilation. They're taught that it's good. They're taught that it makes it better somehow. And they don't, when confronted with this, even when I try to bring it up to someone, it can be very, very difficult at first, especially if they've never heard it before, because there's a lot of resistance. They don't want to confront that fact that maybe they are missing something. And it's so much easier to say, oh, this guy's weird, he's crazy, I've never heard this before, or there must be something wrong with him. And that's the common response because people just haven't heard it enough yet. It hasn't hit the mainstream media. It hasn't gotten enough attention to the point yet where men start to say, oh, maybe I actually should question this. Maybe I should think about it, even though I don't want to. It's so much easier to just say, I don't want to, that's stupid. Like, I don't want to think about that. Like, even if it did hurt me somehow, like, I'd rather just not think about it because there's nothing I can do about it. And that's also commonly assumed. Most men don't know about foreskin restoration. Most men definitely don't know about foreskin regeneration by Foragen. And so, and even people who do know about it are not very optimistic because not enough people know about it. And so, it's so much easier to just keep silent and just not say anything and just let it go. And there's a lot of sexual repression in this country too, just not wanting to talk about sexuality generally, which makes it harder to talk about and harder to get the word out about it. It's just not very acceptable. But nonetheless, things are changing, and it really, there's some initial resistance, but once you get over the hump of talking to a few people about it, it gets easier and easier and easier. And, you start to learn there are some people who will be open to it, there's some who won't, but we just got to change. If we could get 20% of people on board, that would be enough to completely shift this country and, I think, end the practice. And I think we're already probably around halfway there. Those numbers are from Georgianne Chapin, and the New York City screening of American Circumcision, which you can watch on YouTube as well. They talk about how, when you reach 20 to 24% of the population kind of knowing about something, that's when things really start to shift. Right now we're at 10 or a little bit less than 10%. So, yeah, it's happening, and we're getting close, and now is the time that it's really going to start to change, I think. But we're just not there yet, and those are some of the reasons why. But once it does start to change, Americans are very, very strong people. They have very strong opinions and are not afraid to lead the way in making radical new laws and things. And I think we will be one of the first nations to actually outlaw circumcision, interestingly enough. I don't know if we'll be the first. I think Iceland or one of those countries, maybe the first, but it's possible. I really think that because we also are very strong in our human rights, we're very sex positive. Even though we have a history of sexual repression in the 70s, we kind of flip-flopped a little bit and have a very strong streak of sexual rebellion. And so I think that things are going to change, and that there's going to be a new order of sexual sort of openness. That's another wave that's coming, and I'm really, really excited to be a part of that, and especially to bring genital integrity as a right to all children, whether male, female, intersex, religious, anything. Everybody should have the right to their whole body, and that's what we're going to achieve with Foregen and achieving foreskin regeneration, and with the movement of intactivism, bringing rights to an intact body to everybody. So, thanks for watching, guys. Let me know if you have any more questions or comments. Otherwise, I will talk to you tomorrow.